The 7th Reconnaissance Squadron is a squadron of the United States Air Force. It is assigned to the 69th Reconnaissance Group and is stationed at Naval Air Station Sigonella, Sicily, Italy. The squadron was first established in the Panama Canal Zone as the 7th Aero Squadron in 1917 and served as a reconnaissance unit until 1942, when it was redesignated as the 397th Bombardment Squadron. It served as a bomber unit through World War II and was inactivated at Hato Army Air Base, Panama on 1 November 1946. The squadron was reactivated in 2015, returning to its earlier reconnaissance mission. History. The squadron's mission from its inception in 1917 to its inactivation in 1946 was the defense of the Panama Canal. During the 1920s and 1930s it participated in a number of goodwill missions to nations in Central and South America. From its origins in 1917 until 1942, the unit was designated a variation of the 7th Reconnaissance Squadron. World War I. With the entry of the United States into World War I, the War Department felt it was necessary to establish an air presence along the Atlantic terminus of the Panama Canal as a defensive measure against an enemy seaborne attack. In advancing its plans for the defense of the Atlantic and Gulf coasts of the United States, the Joint Army-Navy Board recommended the establishment of 8 aeronautic stations which, with a strength of 2 dirigibles and 6 or 8 seaplanes each, could immediately conduct patrol work. Significantly, the only site definitely advanced as vital in the overall plan was that at the Coco Solo United States Navy submarine base near Colon in the Canal Zone. The Army selected none other than one Captain Henry H. Arnold, then in training at the Army Aviation School at Rockwell Field near San Diego, to proceed immediately to the Canal Zone and form and command an aviation squadron there. This unit was designated the 7th Aero Squadron and was organized formally on 29 March 1917. Captain Arnold did not remain long with the 7th Aero Squadron, however, as he returned to the United States in April 1917. The squadron personnel arrived for duty in the Canal Zone with 51 officers and other ranks. Initially garrisoned at Ancon, Canal Zone the end of March 1917, the unit moved to Carrousel by the 16th of April. They then moved to the large temporary camp at Empire Canal Zone in May, all on the Pacific side of the isthmus, not making the move to Fort Sherman's parade field until around the 29th of August 1917, on the Atlantic side. The unit did not receive its first aircraft until about the 10th of December 1917, when 2 Curtiss R-4s were tested at Fort Sherman. These were followed by Curtiss R-6s on the 12th of February 1918, which were supplied by the Navy. Besides its Curtiss R-4s and R-6s, the unit also had 2 Curtiss R-3s which, oddly, had arrived after the R-4s, in late December 1917. With the end of World War I, most of the 7th Aero Squadron's personnel were transferred back to the United States for demobilization. Between the wars after the war, the squadron evolved into the 7th Squadron, 7th Observation Squadron, 7th Reconnaissance Squadron, 7th Reconnaissance Squadron and 7th Reconnaissance Squadron before being finally redesignated as the 397th Bombardment Squadron on the 22nd of April, 1942. After World War I, the squadron is credited with having operated numerous aircraft types between 1919 and 1931. These included the venerable U.S.-built de Havilland DH-4 series of light bomber general-purpose aircraft, the Curtiss JN-4 Jenny family of trainers, the Laning OA-1 amphibians, these being uniquely suited to conditions in Panama, Douglas O-2 observation aircraft and, surprisingly, Curtiss HS-1 and HS-2L flying boats. Of the DH-4s, the first 6 post-war examples, all virtually stock DH-4Bs, arrived for duty with the 7th in February 1920, replacing the well-worn Curtiss R-6s and other earlier DH-4s. By the 16th of February 1922, the squadron had 7 war-built DH-4s, 4 DH-4Bs, the solitary Curtiss JN-4H, 3 Curtiss JN-6s. By August, all but one of the war-built DH-4s had been scrapped and one of the DH-4Bs had been converted to DH-4BP-1 configuration. By June 1927, the squadron, now in a very lean peacetime stance, had but 8 aircraft. These consisted of 4 DH-4Ms, a solitary DH-4B, a Laning OA-L and 2 Laning OA-1As, assigned to France Field as its home station as of 1939. The unit then became an element of the 6th Bombardment Group on the 16th of October. The squadron was equipped with Douglas B-18 Belows, although a single Northrop A-17 was also assigned for a period, together with the Sikorsky OA-8. By the 1st of February 1940, the assignment to the 6th Bombardment Group was changed to an attachment, as the unit was placed under the direct control of the Caribbean Air Force Staff as one of the dedicated reconnaissance elements reporting to that headquarters. By February 1941, with the reorganizations that were taking place in the local defense posture, the squadron was reassigned to the 19th Bombardment Wing and, on the 4th of June 1941, was assigned 1 Boeing B-17B Flying Fortress, the first production version of the Flying Fortress, which had been transferred to the command. Obsolete as a bomber, the mission of the B-17B was long-range reconnaissance in the Canal Zone, although the aircraft retained its defensive machine guns for defense against any enemy aircraft it may encounter. On the 8th of October 1941, it was once again attached to the 6th Bombardment Group and, on the 27th of November, the unit moved from France Field to the newly constructed Howard Field on the Pacific side, where it received 4 additional B-17Bs. World War II. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the squadron was almost immediately deployed to David Field, Panama. The squadron's B-17 Flying Fortress aircraft deployed elsewhere to begin the Pacific patrols in early January 1942. By mid-February 1942, the unit was formally assigned to the 6th Bombardment Group. On the 25th of February 1942, 397th Bombardment Squadron, the 7th Reconnaissance Squadron, was redesignated as the 397th Bombardment Squadron effective the 22nd of April 1942. The return to David Field came just in time for deployment of the unit as a whole from David to Lara Airport, Peru, where it arrived on the 18th of August. Further, the squadron undertook the Pacific Patrol arc out to Seymour Airport in the Galapagos Islands and, sometimes, on to Guatemala City Airport. These flights continued, almost non-stop, through May 1943, when the unit was relieved and returned to Rio Hato Field in Panama. The Pound 30s retained their original British serial numbers throughout the service with the squadron. Upon its return to Rio Hato on the 4th of May 1943, the 397th was transformed, as an entirely new cadre of personnel replaced the veterans of the Galapagos and earlier tours there. 3 days later, the squadron was reassigned to Howard Field in the Canal Zone, although this was apparently a mere paper move of its headquarters squadrons, as the unit's aircraft and personnel actually remained at Rio Hato. On 1 January 1944, the squadron received orders to deploy 4 of its Pound 30s to France Field to participate in the search for several marauding German U-boats which were causing considerable alarm in the Caribbean. While at France Field, the aircraft also flew navigational and bombing exercises. All of this was preparatory to the unit's deployment to the Galapagos Islands, and, starting the 7th of April 1944, the ground echelon started movement to Balboa Canal Zone via truck for the transfer. The air element got 4 more B-24Js on the 8th of April and, with these, flew with the earlier 2 B-24Js and 2 B-24Ds to Seymour Field on the Galapagos. Other missions, besides the normal long-distance patrols, saw 397th Aircraft operating to Salinas Airport, Ecuador, Havana Airport, Cuba, Borinquen Field, Puerto Rico, Managua Airport, Nicaragua, Cartagena Airport, Colombia, and elsewhere throughout Central and South America. In February 1945, the unit was relieved from duty on the Galapagos and returned to Rio Hato Field, where the unit ended the war. On 1 November 1946, when it was inactivated. In August 2015, the unit was redesignated 7th Reconnaissance Squadron and reactivated at Naval Air Station Sigonella, Sicily, Italy. It is assigned to the 69th Reconnaissance Group at Grand Forks Air Force Base, North Dakota. Lineage organized as 7th Aero Squadron on 29 March 1917. Redesignated, 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 redesignated. 397th Bombardment Squadron, Heavy Sea. Inactivated on 1 November 1946. Activated C. 15 August 2015. Assignments: Panama Canal Department, 29 March 1917. 3rd Observation Group, assigned on 30 September 1919, attached on 1 February 1940, and assigned on 5 May 1942. V-Bomber Command, 1 November 1943 to 1 November 1946. 69th Reconnaissance Group, C. 15 August 2015 present. Stations: Ancon, Panama Canal Zone, 29 March 1917. Corozal, Panama Canal Zone, 16 April 1917. Empire, Panama Canal Zone, May 1917. Fort Sherman, Panama Canal Zone, C. 29 August 1917. Cristobal, Panama Canal Zone, March 1918. Coco Walk, Panama Canal Zone, May 1918. Howard Field, Panama Canal Zone, 26 November 1941. David Field, Panama, the 11th of December 1941. Talara Airfield, Peru, the 18th of August 1942. Rio Hato Army Air Base, Panama, C. the 4th of May 1943. Seymour Island Army Airfield, Baltra, Galapagos Islands, C. the 7th of April 1944. Rio Hato Army Air Base, Panama, C. the 6th of February 1945 to 1 November 1946. Naval Air Station Sigonella, C. the 15th of August 2015 present. Aircraft JN4R3 and R4 during period 1917 to 1919. DH4 included JN4HS2L, OA1 and 0 to 2 during period 1919 to 1931. 0 to 19, 1930 to 1937, OA4, 1930 to 1936, B10, 1936 to 1939, B18, 1938 to 1942, B17, 1941, 1942, Pound 30, 1942 to 1944, A17 at 1943, RB17, 1943, B24, 1943 to 1946.